Recording in progress.
And start just everyone's time. I think that's okay. We okay? Okay. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Matt Wheelwright. I will be conducting our meeting, and we're grateful to have our members of our board as always. Tonight with sound and our Zoom, if you're going to say something, whether at the pulpit here or in the audience, please make sure you're speaking into a microphone that's on. So there's a microphone at the podium here for anybody who needs it, but then we have a couple of our board members who will run it around. So as we get to that point, you want to make a comment, please just make sure you have a microphone. So we will begin with a prayer. Kent Johnson will offer that for us, and then Craig Christensen will lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance.
Our Father in heaven, we're grateful for this opportunity we have to gather here tonight. We're grateful to live in this city and to be able to participate in our community and civic process. We pray that we'll be able to enjoy our time together tonight and that we'll be productive. And we say these things in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We do not have an exhaustive agenda tonight, but we do have some interesting things coming up that we want to make sure we have time for, so we'll go right into it. We do not have anyone from traffic, but we have a little traffic statement, right, Rachel, that we're going to share here, and then a little one on parks. We'll excuse John Bunderson, and in his absence, extend a huge thank you. Riverview Park is amazing. Orchard, what's it called? Quail Orchard Park opened today and is amazing. So our Parks Department is really just hitting home runs. So excited for that. But here's our traffic, maybe so nobody gets tired of my voice. Robert, do you mind reading that? Just go ahead and read those paragraphs for us. This is from our traffic representative. And there were some comments last time that this is kind of responding to.
Provo City has installed a pedestrian crossing with flashing beacons and a refuge island at 3230 North Provo City. Plans on upgrading the pedestrian crossing at 4380 North with flashing beacons as well. There has been no movement or any addition behind Days Market, and therefore there has been no traffic study required of the development yet. For Timpview Drive, Provo City has coordinated with Timpview High School regarding parking for this school year. A new pedestrian crossing has been installed at 3460 North. A new southbound Your Speed sign is in front of Quail Orchard Park. A new northbound Your Speed sign is located just north of 2780 North.
Okay. I'm not sure we need to do any other follow-up, but there was a conversation last time about traffic and speeds, especially in those two neighborhoods. So that's kind of a follow-up on what's been happening there and an update for those in the neighborhood. Do we need to talk about anything else in that regard? I don't think so. All right, Rachel, moving on. Sorry.
Matt?
Yes.
I just would hope that we could get on record or something, that it'd be nice to hear from traffic how they make these decisions instead of just hearing about them after it's planned, so that we could give some input on what we feel like needs to happen. I know Kent mentioned a flashing stop sign that was planned at one point at 2950 North Timpview and is now off the table for some reason. Be nice to know how they're making those decisions.
So Laura, if you'll capture that in minutes, and then Rachel, maybe just make a note. We can get something to address that in the future. Do you have a comment? Okay. Is this still working? It feels like it's not working. Okay. All right. Here we go on from our Parks Department on the Provo River Trail. Robert, you up for reading a little more? You want to pass it off? All right.
The Provo River Trail Improvement Project from University Parkway to 3700 North University Avenue includes widening and paving 2.3 miles, 12,000 linear feet of new trail surface, improved ADA accessibility and trail grades, one new widened river pedestrian bridge, one new widened trail under crossing at 2230 North Street, 750 feet of stepped median barrier along University Avenue by BYU Ellsworth Building, irrigation and landscaping along the entire project area. Trail sections are reopened when work is substantially completed, with 1 mile reopened to date. Most remaining sections will reopen before the end of October, but the final project completion is anticipated to be mid-November 2023. The contractor appreciates trail users observing and following the posted construction signage for safety. Closures allow their workers to perform the with work, minimal interruptions, allowing the fastest project completion and quality.
I think I would highlight that last paragraph for our neighborhood, especially because I do see people running and biking through the construction zone. In fact, yesterday morning, they were running right past the little Bobcat that was moving and doing work, and that's just asking for trouble. So if we can just get word out to obey that, that would be great. Any other thoughts or comments on the trail? Is that our only parks update, Rachel, on that? Okay. I think along those lines, one other thing that I saw, and I don't know that I've seen any follow-up, but it struck me that they're getting ready to realign the little angle road that kind of dead ends into what used to be Provo High School, right on University. And for those of us who live where we do, and if we're going downtown for a while, that is going to be a mess, but I haven't seen any updated schedule. I don't know if that's a UDOT project or if that's a city project, but Rachel, maybe we could ask the question, and this is a group that would benefit from knowing when that's happening. Yes, that little short triangle where the Domino's Pizza and the Starbucks is now, right there. Okay,
Matt,
great. Yes.
can we go back to traffic?
Yes, please.
I was just going to make a comment. So I had reached out to our community officer about traffic on Canyon Road, Timpview, and 2950. So I live on 2950, traffic constantly speeding in between Timpview and Canyon Road, and was told that they did a study on the crosswalk at Canyon and 2950 right next to that church building. Because I had asked if it was possible to get like a flashing crosswalk in there similar to some of the intersections north. And it sounds like there isn't enough traffic, foot traffic on that intersection. I don't know what the qualifications are, but that's what I was told. And same for any enhanced stop sign on Timpview and 2950 north as well. There's one there. It's kind of southbound. It's kind of obstructed by trees. And I was told that they had reached out to the city to get that taken care of. But would just encourage any of you with concerns to reach out to the community officer. I believe his contact information is on the website. I'm not 100% sure. I'm also happy to give his contact information, his email address to you as well. But I know that there's a number of people in my neighborhood who are very concerned with just how fast cars are going there. There's a lot of children there. There was an unfortunate accident with a family pet a week or two ago. And so it's definitely top of mind for everybody in the area. So
Is the COP person
yes,
the correct person to call, or should we be calling traffic? Vern down at
well, Vern's probably the right person to call. I didn't know who Vern was before I saw his name on the write-up there, but
so
I know that
either or both. And
Yeah.
I would suggest maybe finding their email, because then you have a recorded copy of this contact
Yep.
instead of we've called 10 times.
Yep.
Maybe. So
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Kent. All right, we have a half an hour plan for, follow up.
This is Stan Jensen. Just had a quick question about traffic. Earlier on, they said that they would not be doing a traffic study because there was no further activity on the area behind Days. But my understanding was they do those traffic studies periodically, and they're for basically the 3 roads he just talked about as the main thing. Is there any way we can get that schedule of when they are doing that next periodically, or whether it's just those intersections that he commented on?
I think we'll need to take that as a note, and we'll follow up on whether we can do that or encourage that. It sounded like from that note that once the project gets proposed or more formalized, that then an actual study would be prompted. But if we can do something else in the meantime because of these other issues, we'll just need to follow up.
Yeah, I think you got it.
Okay. Sure.
Pam Jones, Edgemont. Why are they doing asphalt on sidewalk on 2230 North by the Ellsworth building and that hamburger joint? And then I noticed now they're going up University
Are you talking about the Parkway Trail where it turns to go towards the river there at the corner?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why aren't they using concrete?
Why are they not using concrete?
Yeah.
I think that's a question for the city. From my experience in development, it's just a cost thing. And with as much linear mileage that they're doing, that asphalt's just a much more cost-effective way to do it.
I think, and I might be wrong, but I think it's considered a bike path. And so it's not considered a sidewalk. I mean, it's dual use. And so it designates it as a bike path and a running path and a walking path. But I'm not sure.
Yeah. And Robert, you're a runner. I'm not. I've heard that running on asphalt's actually easier on the body than concrete. So I think there are a few things that go into it. So I don't know that that's a great answer. We need more specifics from the city as to why they chose that, but I think it makes sense based on.
I think that
quantity.
is designated as a bike path.
Okay.
And so it's a little different than a sidewalk.
City sidewalk.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so we will now turn about 30 minutes, I think our student section's over here, if I'm making a guess. So some students have been doing some research and analysis and things in our neighborhoods. And so this is their chance to kind of present what they've been finding. And I don't know the order. I don't even know your name. So there's a microphone up here. And however you choose to do it, I think we have some slides that are going to follow along. Go team. Are you guys ready? Is everybody here? Could we just keep growing? Okay. So just please make sure the microphone's on and then just hand it from one to another as you go along.
Okay.
That's true. We can do more than one if you need it.
I think the plan is that we'll speak one at a time, but if we need the second one, we will use it. So my name is Britton. This is if you each want to actually introduce yourself.
My name's Jane. I'm Izzy. I'm Isabella.
And yeah, we are students at BYU. We are interning with the city to help develop a neighborhood plan for some of the Northeast Provo neighborhoods, which is where you all live. So I'm going to get started if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide. So I'm representing the Riverbottoms residential area, and that's kind of what we're talking about. From here, the whole map is actually, that's the area here in this blue. So we, through our own research and talking with some of you, these are a few items, I guess, of need or some challenges in the area that we want to address and that we want to be aware of going forward and to implement into the neighborhood plan. Tonight, we are not coming up with any specific solutions or anything like that. We have a lot more research to do, and we're going to need a lot of your help. So this section with all of us talking will take about 10 minutes, and then we're going to leave the remaining 20 minutes for kind of a question and answer portion. But rather than you asking the questions, we're going to be asking more of the questions. So we need some of your feedback since you're the ones that live in these neighborhoods and walk, bike, and drive in and out of them every single day. So with that said, for this Riverbottoms area in particular, the three, I guess, main pillars that we want to focus on are the recreational areas, so vitalizing the routes, specifically with the Provo River Trail coming into the neighborhood and making sure that that's preserved for the future. And then also just making it a little bit more accessible to other forms of transportation. Designating community amenities. There's quite a bit of, there's a private park in this neighborhood. I can't remember the name of it. And then there's Riverview or Vintage Park up at the top. So they're, based on what we've heard from specific residents, there are some need for pet amenities along some of the public spaces in the neighborhood. And just some other ideas for beautifying the neighborhood that people have mentioned that they might like. And then lastly is accessible and effective land use. This is prime real estate right by the river, right? And this gateway corridor into Provo Canyon. So we just want to make sure that moving forward, for your sake and for ours, that land is being used effectively. So if you wouldn't mind switching to the next slide. If any of you live in that neighborhood that I mentioned earlier, if you wouldn't mind scanning this QR code, it has a brief survey, just 4 or 5 questions, so that we can extract some data so that we can understand better what your needs are, since again, we don't live in these neighborhoods. So if you wouldn't mind doing that, that'd be great. Yeah, go ahead. We have one for all, for the Northeast neighborhoods as a whole at the end. This is just one that I specifically formulated for the Riverbottoms residents. So if you don't live in that range, that's fine. We have another one coming. So great question. Yeah, that's fine with me. You guys have any problem with that? Okay, perfect. So that's my portion. I'm going to pass it over. I'll go ahead and next slide, please.
All right. Okay. I'm doing the Sherwood Hills area. Could you actually move back a slide? Like just I'll just use this map. So this is a map of the Sherwood Hills area that we're looking at. I have another map underneath it, but it's being blocked right now. So the areas in red are the critical hillside, and that's one of the key concerns that we have with this area. It's kind of difficult to build in those areas because it has over 30% grade. And so they've marked all of these areas as critical hillside that they want to preserve, and they don't want people building on that land because it's not very safe to build on. So those are areas that they want to preserve. We've had concerns about preserving vegetation such as the scrub oak, and also maintaining these spaces as open spaces, because that's an amenity of the neighborhood. Living close to the mountains and having a lot of green spaces is desirable to these residents. So we want to address the issues with the grading and potentially introduce some zoning that will help with that. We also want to increase connectivity between the trails. In particular, the Bonneville Shoreline Trail has had some issues in the past. They have a committee that is working on that, but we want to make sure that our general plan coincides with their plan for where the Bonneville Trail will go, and that the connectivity of the other trails in that area is improved and works with the Bonneville Shoreline Trail. There's also some natural disasters and hazards that are concerns for the residents, such as fires, making sure that fire easements are respected, and also that houses are up to code for earthquakes and other things like that, like flooding and whatnot. Could you move to the next slide? All right, this is the current plan for the Bonneville Shoreline Trail as it pertains to this neighborhood. You can actually look state of the BST, which is Bonneville Shoreline Trail. If you look that up, they have a map that you can interact with, and see where the Bonneville Shoreline Trail has been historically and what the plan is for maybe moving it around residential areas so it is accessible in the future. And if you'll notice, this goes right above Mile High Drive. So above the residential areas, that's that orange line is where they're planning on extending the trail. And so that would be within the critical hillside and interconnect with the current trails.
Okay, if you want it, perfect. Okay, hi, I'm Izzy. I'm representing the North-South Timpview area. So where Angela lives. And then so like a little bit of the foothills, the Cemetery, Canyon Road, Canyon Drive. So basically we kind of have some three main concerns that have a lot of like different issues with them. First is transportation. When we've gone and talked to residents, a big problem is how heavy traffic is, especially with all the high school students and little kids in elementary schools. That's a safety concern. So we're trying to think of ways to help prevent like car accidents, stuff like that. Housing availability, affordability, property rights and legal issues and high density housing. Housing seems to be kind of an issue. There seems to be a lot of pushback on both sides. But right now we're kind of trying to focus on the legal issues of people who are illegally building. That's a really major concern that we have. We've noticed that like preservation, they kind of coincide because the Cemetery Hill, like people have like dug into the hill and this has kind of like disrupted the preservation of it for housing. And then preservation and recreational space, the Cemetery Hill, trails and parks, and some of the foothills. So my group, we're really just trying to like figure out ways to preserve the area that you guys are living in. We're not trying to build. We're just trying to make sure that kids are safe, that families are safe. And we've noticed a lot of like housing issues like buckling of sidewalks, which is very, very concerning and scary. So we will be having a discussion at the end. So if you have any concerns about safety of housing, we would love to hear about that because that's our biggest issue right now that we're focusing on. So yeah, we will have a QR code, but yeah, those are our main issues. We're honestly just trying to make your guys' lives easier and better. So if you have any ideas, that would be great. This is not mine.
Back to me. I'm representing another group that couldn't make it tonight. So and it's coincides pretty well with the other Riverwoods area. So this is the north side of 4800 North Riverwoods, right? And just some potential needs moving forward, right? More affordable businesses and easier ways to get to the Riverwoods, right? As well as this is kind of a prime area for a little bit more again, mixed use kind of a housing and commercial development together, and the bones are already there, and they right, and you have a solid foundation. So potentially moving forward, just adding on to that.
Now it's actually me. I'm Jane. I'm doing the North Timpview area, basically as far north as you can go in Provo. We are a little bit near Canyon Road, but a lot of our area is actually up Provo Canyon. So this map here is a map of our area. It was very kindly made by some of the residents, kind of pointing out the areas that they're most concerned about and what we are going to be trying to do to kind of incorporate that within the city. The biggest thing that we have been talking about with residents is preservation, especially with the hillsides and the foothills there. There is a lot of issues with geological foundations, so making any kind of developments there is a terrible idea. Don't do it. And so that's basically what we're trying to do, is create ways in the general plan and in our neighborhood plan that can prevent that from happening in the future. Obviously, there are some portions of our neighborhood that probably will be developed in 10, 15, 20 years kind of thing, but we are trying to create the foundation now that will prevent that from happening in unsafe areas, but also in areas that we want to preserve for other uses. With that, recreation is a big deal in this area with all of the areas in Provo Canyon, but then also the foothills behind, connecting with the Bonneville Shoreline Trail and creating a more comprehensive trail plan for that area is one of our big things that we're hoping to be able to do. And then at the very bottom here, we have preparation for new annex areas. With the potential of certain Utah County areas being annexed into Provo, we want to really prepare for that to be a seamless transition so that it can come in and have the same protections that the foothills will have so that they can be preserved for future generations. With that, up Provo Canyon, we're hoping to create more recreational areas so that we can really preserve that and keep it for the future generations of Provo kind of thing, and to hopefully get more people to want to come to Provo. So those are our main concerns: is preservation, creating more recreation, but then also making it a safe place, because we don't want 10 years from now for houses to be sliding off and stuff to be happening. So that's our area.
Perfect. And that's pretty much all that we have to share. That's what we were able to gather over the last little bit. But once again, you are the residents that live in these neighborhoods. And so we need your input and what you know about some of these areas. So that's the QR code that you can scan after we're finished tonight to add any additional comments, but we're going to open the floor to everybody else to share what they know.
Before we do that, can you just clarify what this is going to become, or how you're actually going to use this? Is this a document that we vote on? Is this a document that cities can now impose on us? Like, help us understand.
Yeah, great question. So the project's completion will be around Thanksgiving. And the goal is to provide the city with your help a copy of a neighborhood plan moving forward. Will that be used? Will it be revised? Neither here nor there. Probably will be revised by the city, but we will at least, based on our own research and meeting with you, that's kind of where the project is headed. Yeah, go ahead.
One of the things that really, like, at the beginning was stressed is we're creating the groundwork for you guys to then be able to go to the city and say, hey, we have all this information, we have all this, studies, data, whatever it is. This is what we think should be done in our neighborhood, that then the city can take that information and, enact it into law if there's a overlay zone that needs to be put into place or stuff like that, so that they have all the information that we've taken the time to gather with your guys' help, so that they know the problems that are most important to you guys and the possible solutions kind of thing.
That was perfect. Thank you.
So now you want to ask us specific questions, or you just want different individuals here to
go ahead.
Volunteer?
A little bit of both. So
Okay.
You prepared some questions, right,
Would you run
Isabella?
that around if we need?
Oh, okay.
Like, as soon as you have things that you like about your neighborhood that you would like to stay in your neighborhood, things that you might be like, hey,
this might be unsafe. We might want to change this. Concerns in specific areas in the neighborhood. So that QR code is really helpful as far as giving us written down information. But we also just, if you have concerns that you want to voice now, that would be great. We will be taking notes. Izzy over there is also taking notes. So if you could say your name in your area, then we can put that into records and have information from the residents.
On your part and our part. Thank you. I'm curious what the classes that you're taking that brought you into this project, because I understand it's under Dr. Jamin. Is that how you pronounce his name?
Yeah,
Jamin Rowan. Thank you. If it's a class that your goal is to come up with neighborhood plans, or if it's larger and this is just a project, part of it for me is, and maybe because it's my neighborhood that got left out, and Rock Canyon, you might be feeling in Indian Hills. There's a few more neighborhoods in the northeast area. So if we're considering a northeast area plan, you forgot the whole south and east end of it. Oh, okay. I'm being told that was somebody else coming up with this. Anyway, so 2 comments to go with that is, one, and I did tell Dr. Rowan this, that the city shortly ago, within the last couple of years, paid for a survey of the residents that gave a pretty good overview of this that might be worth taking into your research. And there is, and I don't know how you grandma it or whatever, or was once upon a time, a northeast area plan for this area. I don't know where it's disappeared to, but it was there. I know the people who worked on that once upon a time. And I can put you in touch with them if you can't find it at the city records. I'd love to know how, so you're talking about coming up, it sounds like with just a rough draft, I would call it, of a Northeast area plan. How else can we give you input? Because I looked up your QR code. It's pretty basic, 4 little questions. Is there a process? Do you even know the process in Provo for creating that plan yet? Would that be worth asking the city? And helping residents understand, we already have, they just approved a general plan 9 months or so ago. So we now have a city general plan. And so helping residents understand, what does the neighborhood or an area plan mean versus actual code, like the CCAUS that is also just recently zoning code that was adopted. So differences there.
I actually have something to say. I was talking with Brandon. We were working with him pretty closely. Oh, sorry.
They can't hear you online without it.
Okay, so I've been working with Brandon pretty closely, specifically my group. And we're trying to come up with zoning regulations. And because of the rough draft that you said, the city does take that into account. Brandon's boss actually gave us the certain areas to work on. And he says that we will be using it to come up with a different, like, not different, but a better and more improved general plan. And then right now, we're really just looking for like your input, like what you think that we're missing out on. And we will be sending out probably another survey. I was talking to Brandon about that, and he was saying that he can send it to all the residents. So that is going to be sent out. We're pretty like fresh into the semester. It's been like a few weeks. But yeah, so do you guys have anything else to add?
Just the other question. So you were asking about like what this class is, how we got into this. So it is like an internship level class. They're taking individuals from a bunch of different majors, a bunch of different focuses. I myself am an English major, so I'm mostly going to be working on writing and drafting the general plan, helping kind of pull the ideas into a cohesive message that takes into account the opinions of various people. There are other people, like people within my team, that are interested in city planning. So this is something that's actually related to their major. They have more experience in that area. Yeah. So it's a mix of people on the teams. Some people are communications majors, so they might be more focused with communicating with their residents and helping communicate that back to the other team members, what the residents want, what the core desires are here. Does that answer your question? All right. Do you want me to give you the microphone?
Thank you. I'm Stan Jensen, and first, thanks for what you're doing. This is positive. I think you've identified or become aware of some of the issues that are important to people in this area. I just wanted to share 2 thoughts about those, and these both have to do with the steep grade and critical hillside type things. Sometimes we shorthand that down to it's dangerous to build there and the house will slide off, but there's a lot of other important factors that make us not want to build here. And so I don't want to lose those difficulties with roads, maintenance, costs, water. There's a whole laundry list of things, and we don't have to list them all, but we have to understand that we're not doing that just because if you get over the one hurdle and you say, oh, we've got the geological, we can build this house on the side of the mountain, we're fine. That's not the path we're going towards. And the second one is about solutions. Talking to a lot of people in the neighborhood, they're concerned that we sometimes rent short-term solutions. And what we're looking for is long-term solutions that leave us with access to these forests, these paths permanently, and in the way of easements and those type of long-lasting things. Because sometimes the residents feel like, oh, we got this done, but then 5 years later, somebody comes in and just throws the old plan away. And these plans, as Sharon mentioned, they're not binding code. But if we get some pieces of this into easements or other things that are permanent, that type of solution, I think, will be something that appeals to a lot of people concerned about these issues.
If I can, I guess mine are more specific. Robert Hammond, I'm with the Riverside area. I think the same thing with Riverbottoms and Matt. One big concern, we've expressed it, and I'll just do it for the 19th time, but protecting the Provo River walkway, and not just one side. We have developments. Oh, well, we have a path on this side, so we're going to let them develop right to the river on the other side. There's not much left, to be honest. There are a few projects already in the pipeline, and we've had concerns about whether the access is really there on both sides of the river. But protecting the pathway along the Provo River, not just in our area, but the whole Provo River. Just another one, I guess it's I bring it up a lot, but the Lover's Lane. For those that know where that pathway is, it's just it's a gem. And preserving that, making sure it's preserved. There's been times when homes and their yards have been built right over the Lover's Lane, and the city then came back in and allowed them to continue building even though they were stopped. So that's an important area. So it kind of comes back to, I guess, trails in the whole area. A citywide concern I have, and I own some business property in the Riverbottoms, but apartments were built and signs put out that they're pet friendly. But then the apartment complexes do not have any areas for the pets. So where do they go? They walk a block over to the Vintage Park and along the Provo Trail. And I've got pictures I've sent to the city of people with 2 or 3 dogs walking over for a few minutes and then walking back to their apartments. So it's a continual problem of signage along the trails, letting people know they need to clean up, that there's things for them to clean up with. But I think citywide apartment complexes, if they're going to allow pets, they need to have something on their property and not putting the burden on properties in the community. This one's very specific. I'll just say it. A piece of property. The 3800 North University intersection is a difficult one with Will's Pit Stop. You have 50 West, which is not even a half a block to the west. And there's a piece of property there that is now for sale. I've had calls saying they want to put drive-through restaurants on that. There's just no way to get off of 50 West onto 3800 North on a short span between that and University Avenue safely, especially if you put, I mean, for all of us that have to go through that intersection, a lot of traffic trying to get through an intersection with a stop sign just 100 feet from one of the busiest intersections in the city. So those are kind of specific a little bit, but yes.
With the Provo River, I feel bad yelling. Okay, so with the Provo River by Riverwoods, I've heard that residents own parts of the river. Is that true? Okay, so is your concern, this is simply to clarify, is your concern that the residents aren't cleaning up like their area or like they're building on it? Okay, so like how would we?
Well, I think the general concern is, and we should have addressed it 50 years ago, but the Provo River is an asset for the whole city. And the fact that we don't have a continuous trail on the river from Utah Lake to the mouth of the canyon is really, to me, a really sad thing. But there is property that's available, but as it's being developed, they can be required as part of that development to develop a trail on the river for public access, even though it's on private property.
That is something that my group specifically, that's over the Riverbottoms, I would assume would be a concern for the residents. So that's good to hear that voice. Thank you. Yeah, we are 100% on board with that. So.
So that actually goes along with one of my constituents brought up just this week about a development that's going in very north, and pointed out that the city, and I don't know if this is true, if the city owns the river, and therefore where do you draw the line, how far up that bank the city owns? And obviously we all know there's houses now along a great portion of it. Do they own it? Do they just assume that they own it because nobody's ever claimed it? And can that be written into an area plan to, we're coming for your easement or something? I don't know, but
I don't know the answer to that question. Maybe you do.
I don't know that I do. I have an office building that's on the river, and I believe our ownership is to the middle of the river. But the city required, when that office building was built, that an easement was put through for a trail, and that's where the bike trail is now. And so we actually maintain that, but the city has a recreational easement that goes through there. So anyway.
Yeah. I was in a meeting this week where they discussed the one Sharon's referring to, and Bill Pepperoni said that the city does have an easement along those lines. And I don't know exactly when it was put in or how, but he says they do have that easement and they can put the trail through there, but they are trying to be vigilant now not to let anything get in their easement so they can do that. The property you referred to, which was in planning yesterday, yeah, he assured me there is an actual trail on there. It just wasn't on the map, or not on the northern portion of the map. But just to help you guys, there is a plan. It's supposed to come out in October called the Lake and River Plan. So that should dovetail with what you're doing. It's going to be preliminary when it comes out. It'll go to planning first. It's not to the end, but it's supposed to address some of these issues. So you might work in coordination with that.
So something that has come to our understanding in conjunction with the Bonneville Shoreline Trail. So a lot of these easements are there, but if they're not recorded with the county, they're not. So what happens is a development comes in, and because the city will bring up the map and it's actually not recorded on the map is when these problems come. And so I know that the city's working vigilantly right now to record these areas that they can with the Bonneville Shoreline Trail. And that's a question to be asked about the river as well.
Stan, Suzanne, Ron, quick question on the Lake and River Trail. Can you enlighten us a little bit more about that?
Sorry, I brought that up. No, I can't very much. The big picture is I sent a letter to everybody on city council and said, every development should have an explanation of how they maintain river access and the green spaces next to the river and the trail. They said, it's in the plan. We can't tell you what's in the plan because it's still confidential, and they're going to get there. And I said, in the meantime, can we do a stopgap? And they said, no, but we're going to be very vigilant. I wasn't completely satisfied with that, but that's what the city's telling us. They said that plan should come to planning near the end of October. It will be a draft, but it may be close to final. I can tell you afterwards who I talked to and who you can follow up with, but they are not disclosing the plan at this point. Sorry.
I'll make a comment real quick. One couple, just to back up what Robert said. We seriously have a dog problem, both keeping them on leash and picking up after them all across anywhere. And my wife and I walk all over our neighborhoods, and it's just everywhere. I'd also say we have a traffic problem, but in my mind, it's a speed problem. Roads get busy. I think this isn't the nature of roads. In fact, it's called induced demand. You guys probably studied it, some of you in school, right? And so I don't have an issue with that. I have an issue with the speeds. University at 50 means people go 60 and don't get pulled over. With the number of people on the trails, with the number of people crossing, it's just not safe, right? And so I think all of our speeds, and we've talked about this before, kind of how we enforce these things, and there's an issue with having enough staffing to do that. The other thing I'd add is I just typed into my phone Provo neighborhood plans. just to clarify, it looks to me like the city does this about every year with a group of students. And we're just not on the list yet. So it looks to me like, so there's downtown, Mazer, Southwest, Franklin, Timp, Southeast, Joaquin. I think we were just next in line to have this. And if you look at them, it's kind of just these general recommendations based on data that the students have helped kind of gather so that there's a little bit more detail and information available to the city when they start to look at either development projects or other recommendations and things that they're going to improve in the city. So I think any feedback we give is just good because it means it'll be more real and more specific to what our neighborhood wants.
Yeah, just to piggyback onto that, the class, it's taught every fall, and like you said, different neighborhoods, and it touched you guys this time. So thanks for working with us.
Okay, we're about at the end of our time. Any last questions or comments that you want to pass along to these students? Okay, thank you. Okay, good luck. We look forward to seeing the final product. Or commenting again if you come back in 6 weeks. Right, our next meeting is November 9th. So if you want to come back, we'll be here. Let's see, and thank you for those who commented and added questions and context to what we were talking about. Let's see, next on the agenda. So we have, I think we're calling it a preliminary presentation because there's a project coming, or there's a piece of land existing, a project coming, and this is just an initial conversation about what could be there or what we want there or those kinds of things. So Julie, are you in charge of this conversation? I'll let you take that microphone.
Hi, Julie Smith. We bring up the map, or do you have? So we are in the corner right on University Avenue and Foothill Drive on the northeast corner. So keep going up, right there. So that's just vacant ground right now. It's been vacant for ever. So we are looking at, that's currently zoned commercial.
Yes.
Yeah. That's currently zoned commercial, and we're looking to rezone it a residential zone. And we're looking to put multifamily on there. And so we just wanted to come and kind of let you know that that is what we're planning. We don't have any plans yet. We're just starting to meet with the architects and civil people on it. We feel that that's the highest and best use for that piece of property. We are on University Avenue and Foothill, and the benefit of that is it won't really impact the neighborhoods inside with any density at all. Our access will be on University Avenue and Foothill at the very east edge and the very north edge. Again, that being a corner parcel on two busy roads, the city requires your access to be as far away as, I think somebody was talking about the intersection by Wills. That's the biggest problem with commercial is getting your access from that.
Which that would be my question, if there's a way to tie into. Is there a way to tie into the development just north of there so that you're not actually creating a new entrance?
Yeah, so UDOT will require us, and that's actually shared access right now to the property. When that was, I actually did that years ago. When that was designed, UDOT requires that to be a shared access. So that will be a requirement. So there will be no new drive access there. So thank you.
And I wondered, are you done? Are you ready for questions?
No, go ahead. Yeah, that's what I was just hoping. Go ahead. It says it's on. Is it not working?
It's working. You're
Okay.
just not holding it close
Okay.
enough to you. And partly just for people online can't hear you if you're not speaking in the microphone. We know you can hear us, and sorry, technology. So, I mean, my questions are, you said multifamily, is that what I heard? So are you considering businesses underneath? How tall are you? I know pretty well the questions I'm going to get from my neighbors. How high are you planning to go? How dense are you planning to go? What?
So obviously the density will be based on parking. So you can only your density is going to be based on your parking. So we haven't got that far yet. We have heard from people that they would like to have ownership, some of them. So we've looked at maybe townhomes, possibly on the outside with multifamily towards the middle. But again, we haven't got any design yet.
So how large is the property?
It's approximately 3 acres.
Okay. Because as you go to make your zone change request, that will be kind of how you consider what zone to go to, MDR, LDR, HDR. So that's where you may get pushback from the neighbors. And part of that will be height. You shouldn't have a lot of problem there because
no,
it's pretty high
it's
to the hill there.
It's a huge hill right here.
Right.
Yeah, so height shouldn't be really an issue.
Really shouldn't be an issue. I don't know if anybody else has any questions. That would be my main question is there any interest in putting, and it seems to be the new fad to have businesses underneath and apartments above, but
Actually,
I don't know.
In my experience, it's really tough. That
Okay.
is really, really hard, especially if you have restaurants on the bottom and the smells, and architecturally wise, it's pretty tough.
Okay.
It sounds like a great idea, but it's really hard to make that work.
I'm
So
good
no,
with
this will
that.
be all residential.
I'm good with that. I would, I know parking is always an issue in Provo. And I know frequently it feels like there's encouragement to, oh, it's along a main traffic route. Let's ask for less parking.
Well, obviously, there's going to be no parking on the streets.
That's what I would hope, right?
So that's not going to be an issue.
Because it is a very major road, and with that curve in the road, it's going to hinder entrance and exit even on Foothill. And I know when I go to visit a neighbor in an apartment, if they're home, they're taking their parking space. So I've got nowhere to park to visit the new neighbor. So I would hope you'd kind of overdo on the parking just a little bit, but that's just me.
So one of the things that we were in conversation with the 4 residents that are working with the students that we're just presenting is the city always demands a ratio with cars. And we were asking, and you've brought up the dog issue, we want a ratio of green space to apartments as well, not just parking. It's an issue, especially on this side of the road, where are people going to go? They're going to go right across that road, or they're going to come up the hill and poop all the way up there. And well, you know what I mean. The dogs will, the people won't. Sorry, semantics.
Make sure that's in the.
So I like the idea of home ownership. We lack a lot of that. Everything that's being built is rent only, and we'd like to see more people invested personally in their city, and home ownership is a way to do that. So I like that. And just a little more green space around it would be nice.
Yeah, there's not 3 acres. It's not a very big piece. But.
I was going to second that as well. The idea of home ownership, really a big idea. We need some of that. So delighted you're considering that.
Can I make a couple of comments about that? First of all, so I live close by. So everybody that lives in Canyon Brook, they love Canyon Brook. Canyon Brook's immediately to the north. It's the very residential looking high density, medium density, 2 stories, very successful. It's owned, but almost everything is rented. So just because it's going to be for sale doesn't mean it's not going to be rented. There are pros and cons, because if people buy it and then they're absentee landlords, it actually gets worse than if a really good management company was keeping track. That's a side note. There are not a lot of good management companies right now for whatever reason. All of them have been changing hands in this area.
Yeah, I agree, Matt. I would rather personally, like I live in a planned unit development and it's very well manicured, and I take my dogs out every day for walks, and I can guarantee my place where I live is so much well kept than most subdivisions, most lots.
Yeah. So I'm not, I also approve, I think home ownership matters a lot. It's very helpful. We have, this is my ward, much less turnover in Canyon Brook than in either the flats or the lofts, which from my perspective drives us crazy, but it's okay. I understand. I'm okay with this being residential. I think that's probably a good idea. I would just put on record that I think we've gone a little too high. I thought really initially the PEG development on the corner was going to be 5 stories. That's what they proposed. And we fought really hard to say, no, that's way too tall. 3 stories is what we got. I think 3 stories fits well with other residential projects. So I would just go on record saying that. The other thing I think is really important for you working with Suzanne or Susanna, I can't remember, the owner, that this meeting gets attended by who you see. The neighbors are actually living in Canyon Brook right now, and you need to go like knock doors and talk to them if you want their buy-in and their support, because they're not at this meeting. And so there gets this disconnect because you have to come here formally with a planning member of the planning staff when you're ready, if you're getting a zone change. But if you really want neighbor input, you need to go knock doors and actually like hold a neighborhood meeting in one of those with whoever was willing to come talk to you, because that's not who's sitting here.
Okay, thank you. Can I
Yeah, please.
Can I ask a question? I think you said that there's going to be an entrance on Foothill.
Again, it's all city and UDOT driven by traffic study, but if there was, it would have to be as far east as it can go. And I don't even know if that's possible.
Right, and I see a nightmare. Yeah,
right now is up
I
there.
see a nightmare of people coming east and trying to turn left on that curve.
It'll all have to have traffic studies and everything else.
Okay.
And maybe you'll just have the one. I don't know.
My only question is, what is the green area just to the right of your arrow?
That belongs to Doug and Lori Russell.
That's a private property.
I do have another comment. If I could piggyback on my last comment about home ownership, I'd just like to bring to your attention the example of 3 Fountains, which is on Canyon Road. And it's quote unquote high density housing, and there are no rentals allowed. That's in the bylaws, and that's a possibility if you want to create home ownership. So just
cool. It's also very hard to manage realistically. 3 Fountains is a little different. I know people in 3 Fountains. I love 3 Fountains, but true. HOAs go away. HOAs get violated. Rules get violated. I'm just throwing it out.
Okay. Well, thank you for your time.
Okay. Thank you. So it sounds like maybe sometime in the future we'll have a more formal visit. But appreciate you being here tonight and the comments. Let's see. We have an item here to talk about our neighborhood social, which at least all the ice cream got eaten. So we know it was successful. But maybe we can just talk for a minute because there may be another one of those in the future. We kind of hope so. Do you want to talk a little bit about maybe just a little report, and then maybe we'll open it for any feedback on whether we should do it again or what we should do differently, anything like that?
Right. I'll start, but we would love feedback on if you think we should change something, because I'd love to plan to do it again. One of the comments was that I think it was Laura said she liked the time of year because it was a little bit cooler, so it wasn't quite as hot as it could have been. So maybe we'll shoot for after Labor Day, because we all know May and June start to just get crazy with graduation and school and all that. All the ice cream got eaten. So for the record, there were 6 5-quart things, and we went through about 2 2-liter bottles per 5-quart thing. So that was a hit. We think we served about 150 people, which was way over what we estimated. So what we expected, I should say. What were the other comments? Kurt Bramble offered for the record to have his balloon rides next time. So keep that in mind. And now it's public record. So exactly. The fire engine was a big hit, Robert's saying. I didn't get over there. We were discussing doing Quail Valley. I thought Riverview was really a nice option down there. But we did talk about in planning it rotating parks in our area, so that could be fun for people to see. Quail Valley did open Quail Orchard. It's Quail Orchard.
Quail Orchard
open today. If you haven't seen it, go see it. It's kind of cool. So maybe that will be next fall's thing. What else? The city, we're so very grateful to all the city staff and different departments that came. I heard somebody won tickets to the Covey Center, and different swag was given out by Rachel and different departments. So tell them thank you. We're so glad they all came, and the fire department. I would say let's get there early and put pylons where we want them to park next time, so we don't have to stress about that. Oh, see, you missed the fire hats. I can't think of anything else, so I'm sure I will if other people start talking. What did you like? What would you see? Someone suggested pizza instead next time. Harder to give away. I don't know. The root beer was donated, so we did not have that expense. So that was a nice non-expense. The snow cones and the face painting were a huge hit. We have to get that back again next year. And the balloon animals, the cotton candy. What did I say? I said snow cones. I meant cotton candy. It was too cold for snow cones. So I would absolutely say we have to find somebody to do the balloon animals and the face painting and the cotton candy for sure. Big hits. And oh, that was the other thing we wanted in the record, is maybe to have somebody manning each game so that kind of had more happening there. Any other comments? It was a good time, 6:30 to 7:30. Maybe pizza would be better for that hour. Oh. It's your turn online. Will we hear them? Or are you gonna?
Is it me?
Yes. Who is me? Tell us your name.
It's Bonnie Morrow.
Oh, it's Bonnie.
Yes. I thought the social was wonderful, and I was pleasantly surprised at the turnout. I loved the fire trucks, and the firemen were out there talking to and explaining about the fire trucks and what they do. And that was really awesome. And they went out of their way to be social with the neighborhood people that showed up. And I was super impressed with them. And I was also impressed with the BYU students that were there asking about the neighborhood. There were a lot of people really surprised. Oh, you want our opinion about the neighborhood? And because I was kind of standing back watching, taking pictures. And I think people really like the idea of being able to have input there at this. And I'm going to put a plug in for Quail Orchard Park. I think we need the next social there, because that park there's still people running around playing on it. It was a huge success today, and the whole Northeast area is thrilled with that park.
Yeah. Thanks, Bonnie. I agree that I think the fire, not only was the fire engine cool, but the firefighters, the paramedics that were standing there were awesome. Rachel, I'm very curious to hear from you, though, from the perspective of the city. Is this too much of a burden, or is this exciting for the city to be part of? Because you guys did a big part of the work, at least in being there after hours.
Right. Well, it was kind of mixed. We had fire department. They totally wanted to be there. They wanted to have their trucks there, and they wanted to also talk about the wildland urban interface. So they kind of had a reason why they wanted to be there. Same with Public Works. They were talking about that aquifer recovery system at the park. Another district is having an event in October, and we asked the same people if they wanted to come do booths. And a few of them had said no, it wasn't worth their time, like the Parks and Rec. Like they felt like it wasn't really worth their time to have people there stay late. As far as the city council neighborhood district booth, we'll come to anything you'll let us come, because we try to get the neighbors involved. So we'll definitely come. So I think it depends on, for the city, if they kind of have an ulterior motive. Like the fire department wanted to talk about WUI, and Public Works wanted to talk about the aquifer, and that gave them a great reason to be there. And I think John Bunderson was there kind of talking about the changes to the park. So if they have kind of a reason to be there, they'll come. I did have Pam from the Covey Center. She was at the Quail Orchard park, the event today at noon, and she had the big sound system with the music. And she actually came up to me and said, hey, if any of your districts are having parties, we can come set up music with this sound system. So that's something we can think of for the future. She actually came to me and asked and said, they could set that up. So those. There you go. I know. It was fun. It was a great event. I thought it was really fun. Good job, you guys.
Thank you, Rachel, and thank you to all the city folk who came and for ice cream and the board. There was a lot of work behind the scenes and a lot of prep, and so.
And the library needs to go on the record.
Oh yeah, library.
People enjoyed having the library there. So
I think they actually rent out or loaned out a fair number of books.
Yeah, I got to renew my library card. So that saved me a trip downtown.
Good. Any other feedback or other members of the board want to make comment? Yeah, Stan.
One quick comment. I thought it was great what the fire department did, and they do things when they have ulterior motive is brought up. The COP program with the police, they're often doing things at parks like that, and so they might piggyback. If we did something at the same time, they could have a group show up and interact. Just one other option.
So, and I know we left it to Rachel pretty much to invite everybody, and I appreciate that she did. I know in the past, part of the problem with COP is the hours. And so they start at 6 and they've been on all day. And so by 6 o'clock, they're done. I would have loved to see a canine or an officer or something there. So I don't know how we help their department know. Do we hire somebody separate to be that after hours person? I don't know. But you're right. I agree. It'd be fun to have the officer there so that we know who our officer is. Maybe we give him the day off during that day. I don't know. But it would be fun to have them come. But understand they've already been all day.
All right. Any other comments? Laura, anything you wanted to add? Has your ice cream wrist recovered from? Okay. Well, thank you again to everyone. So it sounds like we're targeting next fall again as another event. Is that kind of thing? I thought Monday was nice personally. Probably could work a little more on just publicity. I think what we had was great, but getting it out into more hands or more signage, we could figure that out. But I think it was a really good first attempt at a good neighborhood social. So thank you, everyone. Remainder of the meeting. Yeah, we're a little ahead of schedule still. Public comment. If there's anyone here who came because you wanted to make sure we heard something or wanted a question that gets to someone in the city or in the notes, this is the right time. We'll ask you to keep that to 2 minutes or so, but we'll run microphones around if anyone has any comments or any board members want to make sure you add anything to tonight's meeting. Please tell us your name if you would.
Heather Britton. I'm in Edgemont neighborhood. This is my first time here. Hello.
Welcome. Thank you for coming.
Might be the youngest one here. I'm here because unfortunately my dog was the one that got hit on my street 3 weeks ago. Hit and killed, and the driver left. Not knowing, or it was an accident and they left. We have a camera on our door, and not seeing the driver, we could see that
they were driving too fast. It's always been a concern. The people who live up the street have that little plastic sign saying slow down. That sign's actually been hit a couple times. Nobody slows down. My kids, I have 3 kids, 4 and under. And for 2 years now, we've been out in front of our house waving to 3 bus drivers every morning on the way to school. Oh, I'm sorry, this is 3250. I live smack in the middle between Canyon Road and Timpview Drive. Yep. What did I say? 3250. 2950. My sister lives on 3250, and actually her daughter was hit today by a car. Yes, I live on that street. So I'm also here for my sister who is doing x-rays with her daughter, because on that street, another through street, people drive too fast. And like I said, her daughter was hit today, so she couldn't come. Daughter. So first my dog died, and now her daughter fortunately did not die. But we're here, well, I'm here to really stress the importance of speed control, especially with 2 elementary schools on the ends and the high school. We know there's construction and there's parking problems, but I'm here to make sure that that's a voice being heard.
Thank you.
I moved in about 5 years ago, and that was emails. I didn't know about this neighborhood thing. And I had sent emails to the city, and they came and they put a speed tracker on my street. And then when I emailed him back to try and get the reports of that, he started not responding. And then last year, about this time, I emailed the engineer of Provo City, and he was the one who kind of said there's a process to that. So, I mean, I'm not sure. I could look up the email, but I'm not sure. Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, thanks.
Can I ask a follow-up question? And Ken, you live close here, right? Okay, can I just, is this something new? This has been going on. This is not associated with the construction.
No, it's new. Like I said, we moved in 5 years ago, and I didn't really, we came in toward the house. It was evening. There wasn't a lot of traffic. I'm from the neighborhood, but seeing the cars speed through, and surprisingly, there's not an age limit. I see plenty elderly people speed through. I see plenty young kids speed through this morning when the bus waved at us, and he doesn't slow down much. A car went around the bus to pass the bus because they're trying to get to the stop sign quickly.
And they're looking down at their phones, right?
Well, yeah, we get a lot of that too.
A lot of that. Okay. Rachel, what is the right, from now that we have an information like this and we want to follow up, are you the best one to follow up, or should one of us take that on to go follow up?
I actually just did a survey with the city staff about how they want to interact with the neighborhood program. And Vern Kiesler, he's our traffic manager. He specifically said, if it's something like this, where it's an emergency, where it's dangerous, to contact him directly. So then that way he can, for her,
okay,
her to contact Vern directly, or also Gordon will give you their contact information. Yeah, Vern will be better. Okay, thank you, counselor. And so, because he wants to hear it, because if it comes through the meetings, he's hearing it months after this has happened, and he wants to get right on it when it's something dangerous like this. And a lot of the staff have mentioned they would love to get direct emails from residents, not so much phone calls, because a lot of times they're in meetings, it's hard to get hold of them. And like someone else said, would you have that record of the emails to email them? But he did say, instead of going through me or being put on a future agenda, something like this, an emergency, go for the resident to speak directly to him through email so he can get right on it and figure out what's going on. Yeah, because I normally don't go in your neighborhood, but I was there for the quail orchard and I made the mistake of parking
You're
on
ready to move.
Drive, and oh my gosh, those cars were going by me so fast. Like I was scared to get out of my car to go to the park. So I get it now. I understand. It's scary. Yeah, I did see the lights. I went to make sure Vern put the lights on. He said he was going
And
to.
unfortunately, it's
Still,
not
it was
reserved
scary.
for cars. Walk on a sidewalk and those little electric motorcycles come flying by. You're in taking your life in your own hands. First of all, very sorry for your dog and your niece. Sorry to hear that. So we're going to make sure you get Vern's contact information. Ken, since you're right there, can we let you kind of represent the board and kind of be a help and a liaison to make sure that there's at least the conversation continues? And Bill Pepperoni, who's head of community, development, I think, right? He came and spoke at BYU campus today in a meeting I was in with a bunch of students. He's got a great vision for what Provo is trying to become and continuing to grow into. And there are wonderful planning things that we can do, not just roundabouts. That's like the planning thing, but I don't love them. I grew up in New England and roundabouts are the devil, right? But they're bullbouts. You do speed bumps at the last kind of possible resort, but they're all kinds of creative, less expensive that we can do on these little neighborhood streets to slow people down. But we probably need the school district to help us because a lot of those are students, they have nicer cars than I drive and they're flying. Rachel, maybe we could put that in a note or in something for the school district. Lisa Boyce isn't here tonight, but she regularly is. But she's someone that maybe could help us on the school side, just education, right? This is something that has to change or we're all going to get nervous being out on the public side of our streets. So sorry, but thank you for coming and bringing this up here.
Matt?
Yes, please.
Just a fast comment, and it's kind of piggybacked on that, and I don't have an answer. And that's the difference between an electric bike and a motorcycle and what the city, how do you regulate that? I was at 4800 North in University Avenue, and a young kid was coming down the hill, and he had to be going 30 or 40 miles an hour on one of those small black bikes. And he pulled a wheelie and went across University Avenue on one wheel all the way up in front of Shops at Riverwood. And then he put his wheel down. Now that's different than an electric bike going up the bike path. You have enough power to pull that bike up on one wheel. And he's riding down the middle of the road. And I remember when I was a kid, I had a little go-kart, and the police, if they saw me on the road, they pulled me over and I had to drag it up on the sidewalk and push it home because it had an engine. But because it's electric, we're not calling it an engine. So I don't know, maybe that's something. I know the council's working on that.
Yeah, there are rules about it because David Wright, right? He had this conversation. I got an email like a week ago with all the different designations. It's just hard for the public to know and to enforce.
Yeah. General rule is if it's motorized, belongs on the street. If you're on the sidewalk, it's 10 miles per hour max. If you're a non-motorized scooter or bicycle for that matter. But how do you enforce that? How many police officers do you need to enforce all the scooters? So it's not just the little old ladies that we worry about on the sidewalk. It's the kids on the bikes who are flying down the sidewalk and a car comes out the driveway. It goes both ways. So it's a problem.
Thanks, Robert.
So kind of to that, BYU sent an email to some of their employees several weeks ago, and they've begun with some of these rules. And I liked the way it was worded, and I'll have to look for it Counselor Fillmore and send it to you, because it was on some level, at some point, we all have to learn to share. Whichever, whether you're going to be on a sidewalk or the road, right? I have to share the road with the cyclists, and if I'm on the sidewalk, I may have to share with somebody else. So I liked the way they worded it in a we need to work together to watch out for each other kind of a way. How you put that into code, that's why we hired you, not me. Right, we need to come up with actual code that we can enforce. Oh, no. You're right. You're right about not having the super wide sidewalks to work with, but, and we do need to come up with code that we can actually enforce. And my original comment would be I understood several months ago, and I think it may have even been a year, I was in a public meeting and they discussed having a policeman sit in a car on 4800 North. And I haven't seen that happen. I thought that was part of the plan also, because again, at least in that meeting, they brought up how often, I should say how useful it is to have a policeman sit in a couple of regular spots. And I'm sorry if it has to be me that gets the ticket once or twice, to actually give out a ticket instead of just some warnings. And then when you see the policeman's car parked there, even without him, you just kind of go, oops, and you slow down, because part of it is thoughtless. We just all go faster than we meant to go. And part of it's education. But if we could get some policemen sitting and giving out some tickets, maybe that would, I don't know what the rules are about revenue from tickets, but if that, right, just having that presence eventually is all we need. So
if I get run over by an 8-year-old riding a little motorcycle on the sidewalk, there better be some follow-up, but there will be follow-up. Gosh darn it. Well, thank you. Oh, yes, please.
So on a different topic.
Okay.
I heard today that the city council is planning to take up the issue of ADUs again. And if that's the case, I just want to go on the record that I am against the rollout of ADUs citywide. I think that people generally choose to live in an area that's zoned for single family homes because they want to live in a neighborhood that's single family homes. And that the city sort of has a contract with those people when they move in. That's what they're expecting. And what I heard is that the city council will be discussing the idea of removing the requirement for homeowners to get approval from their neighbors to get an ADU. They just need to apply. So I hope that doesn't happen. And if any of you are also concerned about it, it would be a good idea to reach out to your city council members, and perhaps Bill could comment if he knows anything about this coming up.
We're under a certain mandate from the state legislature. They passed a law saying thou shalt. We have a reduced requirement in Provo because it's college town. We already have a disproportionate number of rentals in the city. And so we felt like we were in compliance last year with the state statute. I believe we are personally, but there are people in town, and there's some on the council who feel that we've just got to press ahead, that ADUs are the answer to a lot of social issues. And so it will be coming up every year. Accessory dwelling unit, the ability to have renters in your basement who are not family. Yes, or yes, a separate building. Yeah. So it's a knotty problem. There's good arguments on both sides. The main issue I think Mrs. Middleton raises is that people buy homes in neighborhoods because that's where they want to live, and they want a stable neighborhood and don't want to have more transiency imposed on their neighborhoods necessarily with whatever traffic or other issues arise. It's a difficult issue. As long as the state keeps imposing things on us, we have no choice but to react. But right now, I'm not aware of any new ADU statute in the works in Salt Lake City for this session. But again, there are people who are going to keep pushing this issue. And if you have strong feelings one way or the other, feel free to come to our upcoming meetings later this fall.
Thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Any other comments? Rachel? While Rachel's walking up, I'll just remind everyone our next meeting is Thursday, November 9th. Our last one of the year.
Okay, I just wanted to say the ADUs work session is tentatively scheduled for October 17th for the city council to kind of hear research on the ADUs. And then it's usually, if they're making any type of decision, then that's later. So it won't be till October 17th if you want to listen to the work meeting to kind of hear what's being proposed or what's being discussed. Yes. Right. You can go into it. And of course, you can always contact the council at council@provo.org. And I just wanted to bring up the BYU students talked a lot about working with Brandon on the plan. Brandon Larson is no longer with the city. He's now heading up community development for Eagle Mountain. So he's not there and they have not replaced him yet. So if you have questions about long range planning, there's kind of not someone there right now.
Okay. Thank you. All right, we will adjourn and see you in November.